Quality Control Laboratory opens. Enforcement of country's laws weak. And airline driving government agriculture's focus.
This is the National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. This is Thursday's news. Papua New Guinea has a new laboratory for quality control where all medicines imported will be tested before being distributed throughout the country. This facility, the first in PNG and the Pacific, was commissioned today in Port Moresby. Health Minister Sir Puka Temu says the national government is trying to improve primary health care through such services, and there are plans to accredit the Quality Control Laboratory with World Health Organization as the Pacific Medicines Quality Testing Center.
The facility is said to be a milestone for PNG as it will be used to test all medicines imported into PNG. The Australia's Foreign Affairs Department's Health Counsellor congratulated the National Health Department and partners for working to improve access to proper health care.
Our investment towards this core building block of the health system, valued at approximately $3 million, is coordinated through the World Health Organization. This support complements Government of PNG's own investments, the Global Fund Health System Strengthening Grant, WHO and other really important partners, and aims to strengthen regulatory system and capacity building across pharmaceutical services.
Minister responsible for health, Sir Puka, said drug resistance is a UN agenda and the facility is a milestone for PNG.
I can assure our people that from today on, we will build this facility to meet the World Health requirements, and I will work very, very hard with our WR and partners to make sure that we achieve that WHO pre-qualification accreditation. I want to achieve that. Because nobody can say that this laboratory should meet the PNG standards. No. In this case, there's no such thing as PNG standard. There's only one standard, and that is global standard.
He said a nation must protect its own people from products that do not meet global standards.
Health has been very privileged to be on the top of the development agenda of our country. And for those of you who watched the presentation of the budget by our Treasurer, the Deputy Prime Minister, you realize that we have been very, very privileged to have been given 10% of the national budget for the health sector.
Temu thanked the government for committing $1.5 billion of the 2018 budget to the health sector. $266 million will be committed for medical supplies next year for the new laboratory. Stacey Yellow, National EMTV News.
Rabaul MP Dr. Alan Marat and Tewai Siasi MP Dr. Kobi Bomareo were sworn in today as commissioners of the Constitutional Law Reform Commission. CLRC Chairman Robert Atiafa says the commission had a vital role to play in the country's development. Meanwhile, Dr. Marat says while the PNG Constitution had many laws, the real issue was the implementation and enforcement by the National Executive Council.
Sworn in by Deputy Chief Magistrate Desi Maragu, the two members of Parliament, Dr. Alan Marat and Dr. Kobi Bomiro, now allow the Constitutional Law Reform Commission to supervise and actively participate in the work of the Commission. There is a total of 7 commissioners that include the Chairman and Member for Hanganofi, Robert Atiafa.
The role and the status of the Commission in making or law-making process is therefore crucial. As the Chairman of the Commission, I want to assure our people that the Commission will do its utmost best to protect the interest and well-being of our people in the reformation and formulation of laws of the country. With the current membership of the Commission, I'm confident we will do an excellent job.
Dr. Alan Marat said he would do his best as a Commissioner.
To regulate the behavior in human conduct in the different areas of society. I believe that I can contribute there in that area, and also then the matter goes to Parliament where we can all contribute in debate to ensure that the law is there.
But Dr. Alan Murad said that there is an issue with enforcing and implementation of the many laws that make the PNG Constitution. He said while the law itself may be the best to guide human activity, it is the implementation and enforcement which needs to be looked at.
And the bigger problem is that issues, the global community changes every second, and issues have multiplied exponentially. And so we continue to struggle with trying to find out what a good law is, but there are good laws in existence already. It's just the enforcement.
Meanwhile, the Commission is hoping to review election laws in the coming years.
And on behalf of the Commission, I want to assure the government of the Commission's support of its reform programs. The Commission in the next couple of years will review the electoral laws or election laws, process and procedures as agreed in Alotau Accord 2.
Adelaide Siraxkari, National, EMTV News.
Papua New Guinea's lack of updating notifications to the World Trade Organization has raised concerns to other members about the country's transparency. PNG, like other members, are expected to comply, providing annual notifications on its trade regime, trade data, subsidies, especially in the agriculture sector, import licensing regime, and trade facilitation agreement commitments, among others. As a result, 25 government officials directly involved in implementing trade agreements participated in a recent introductory training funded by European Union Trade-Related Assistance Program to effectively implement the country's first ever national trade policy. It was conducted with a view to build capacity for trade-related agencies to prepare and submit notifications to the World Trade Organization. The solar rice mill project under the National Agriculture and Research Institute of PNG in Lae organized a workshop on community against gender-based violence. The workshop aimed to educate farmers to increase farming skills and to work together to stop gender-based violence in communities.
30 communities from the 9 districts of Morobe will be given the solar rice-powered machine to mill the rice. The workshop organized by the Solar Rice Mill Project was to educate the farmers on equal participation by members of the community where the machine was to be stationed. This was Nari's response to the international event to campaign against gender-based violence in the communities.
Funding support from PNG Incentive Fund. Now, partners also Prokai, partners also province of DAL, Margaret and Mr. from outside, partners want the PSS company where decided to walk into the solar rice mill long by that solar rice mill long community.
Nari's Solar Rice Mill Project aims to bring equal participation of men and women when using the machine to mill the rice. A police officer who also attended said violence is increasing in families due to economic burden or when there is no money to provide food for the family. The Provincial Rice Grain Project Officer Margaret Taitu said increasing the distribution of rice seedlings could help rice farmers to grow more rice to sell and to sustain the family. The introduction of the solar-powered rice mill would help farmers save time and cost when traveling to Lae to mill their rice. The Director General for the National Agriculture and Research Institute, Dr. Sergi Bang, says more than 300 million kina is spent on importing almost 250,000 tons of rice into the country. Dr. Bang said while handing down the 2018 budget, the government is focusing on growing its own local rice than importing rice from overseas.
Plantation or company by involvement must plant rice starting next year onwards long. By going up by PNC must run rice long yet. So it's like walk the rice when I use Saran and walk the government use Saran and government have a pushing you go in up and you know you must have a rice cleaning by you know and Zimbabwe.
Julie Badui Owa, National MTV News, Leh.
The United Nations says laws on refugees are clear and the onus is with each country on their implementation. Resident Coordinator Roy Trivedi was responding to calls made by Sinisina Yongomul MP Kirengakua for United Nations to relook at what constitutes a refugee.
The United Nations states laws on refugees are clear and there should not be any arguments on the definition of refugees.
Kirengakua is right in terms of raising the issue that, look, across the world, we are already seeing many people who are fleeing countries where perhaps there has been repression, you're getting migrants, etc., and arriving on distant shores. The issue there, I don't think, is whether we need to reclassify the definition of refugee or not. The issue is, can we actually process these claims faster? Can we find resolutions quicker?
This issue is brought to light by Sinisina Yongomul MP Kirengakua following the chaotic situation on Manus Island early this month. Kua called on the United Nations to relook at what constitutes a refugee.
Redefining the term refugee. I'm asking that now that we are faced with this trouble and having to cope and deal with it at considerable expense and trouble here, we have an entitlement to go up to the United Nations and say that they must relook at what constitutes a refugee. So a lot of these people, if you have that definition, they would have come out of Iraq, Iran, somewhere out there, Africa. They've run 5, 6 countries already to end up in Papua New Guinea, Australia. But if you apply this definition, the minute they leave the first country at their border, they're no longer refugees.
But the United Nations says the host country for asylum seekers and refugees has the power to process or deport them.
And for those who are not refugees, of course, the law is very clear that they can either be sent back to their own countries of origin, or in the case where there is a need, you find third countries that will take them. And I don't think that there is an argument about the definition of a refugee.
Mr. Kua, speaking on the Manus issue, claimed all these problems could have been avoided if only the label refugee was defined clearly.
Because, you see, the threat to us exists the minute we're in Solomon Islands, the nearest country on that side of the border. So we're another foreign country. We enjoy the protection of that country now. So that danger that forced us to flee exists. That's why I'm encouraging government of Papua New Guinea and government of Australia to foster matter, because it's become an international phenomenon. Somebody has to do something about it. And it should begin with the way a refugee is classified. And a limitation be stamped on it to say that the minute you run past the first country at your border.
Fabian Hakelitz, National MTV News.
You're watching National MTV News. When we come back, a surprise visit by 2 of our Kumals to a delighted graduation in the Western Highlands. That story and more when we come back. Welcome back. Dr. Osborne Sanida is the new director of the nation's public policy for the PNG National Research Institute. Council Chairman Wilson Thompson says they are confident Dr. Sanida will lead the institute towards achieving the Knowledge Hub concept and work towards strengthening NRI. Papua New Guinea Rugby League stars Paul Aiton and Gary Law paid a surprise visit to a first-ever grade 10 graduation ceremony of Kumbaya High School on the outskirts of Western Highlands Province. All attention was given to the 2 stars who gave motivational speeches to the graduates and the youths. Pioneer grade 10 students graduated with flying colours yesterday.
After the graduates settled in at the seating arena, there was a roaring crowd behind. All eyes were on the rugby stars Paul Aiton and Gary Law, which stole the show. They were also accompanied by Aiton's wife and mother. Aiton attended the graduation because Kumbaya High School is the first upper secondary school to be built in his mother's village in the mountains of Nebilia district in Western Highlands province. Aiton had also supported the constructing of the school by donating funds to complete the classrooms.
Me too, me laying down now. So me, I must come and talk, but yeah, so I was in little problem come inside life blue you. Don't worry. Just keep charging gold blue you, man. You gotta reach him.
Hard work works. Working really hard is what successful people does, huh?
School principal Robert Clark encouraged the graduates to work hard, have self-discipline and respect for others to prosper. Clark told the guests from the provincial government and the education department that the school had only received 145,000 kina funding from the tuition-free fee policy. He said more work needs to be done to grow the school. There are only 5 teachers' houses occupied by some teachers and 3 more houses are incomplete. Clark said teachers' pay needs to be addressed to keep the teachers from running away so that students can benefit.
I'm incomplete. Me no sleep. Lol, this the 3 houses. Me sleep 5 house.
Kumbaya High School has a student population of 500 grade 9s and 10s with only 8 teachers. Yesterday, 248 Pioneer grade 10 students graduated with their attainment certificates. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
Providing healthcare services for prisoners at the Buimo Correctional Centre in Lae continues to be a challenge. This was one of the issues discussed in the Human Rights Workshop for Correctional Service Officers in Lae. The workshop was funded and facilitated by the United Nations.
Officers from the Buimo Correctional Services and the Ombudsman Commission were given the opportunity to discuss better ways of managing prisons.
Protecting the rights of people there and ensuring that the prison is a safe place for not only prisoners but also for prison officers or corrections officers.
This is one of the first trainings held in the country.
Such workshops will more or less, put my officers in a better position to be able to, know what they are supposed to do and what they are not supposed to do.
The Buimo prison has the capacity to accommodate about 500 prisoners. However, there are over 800 prisoners currently detained in this facility. The large number of prisoners pose as a security threat. Inspector David Jerigari says overcrowding contributes to health and hygiene problems faced in the facility.
The medical facilities we have is not enough to accommodate the huge number of prisoners we have in custody at the moment.
Like many other clinics in the country, Buimo's clinic also faces drug shortages.
It is the resources that will enable us to fully deliver the service to the prisoners.
Lucy Kapana, National EMTV News, Lae.
Sumcar MP Chris Nangoi is eyeing agriculture as a sustainable revenue earner for the district. And with copra and cocoa as leading commodities, Nangoi plans to use it to drive economic activities. He says downstream processing is the way forward.
Sumcar district will tap into agriculture because it generates revenue and improves income per capita.
Especially KAK. KAK is the board that is regulating copra, and KAK is based here in Mosby. I don't know if there's copra activity happening here in Mosby. What I really want to ask the minister is that why not bring the regulators or those that regulate the policies and look after the commodities. They must be based on where those products are. On the ground. So my recommendation is KK must be relocated down to Medang.
Sumcar MP Chris Nangoi is determined because through agriculture, economic and sustainable development can progress. While supporting the national government's focus on agriculture, Nangoi says Medang is a leading producer of copra and cocoa, and it's important they maintain and sustain what's already on the ground.
By Asians. And one of the bad things that is done there is that the local little people in the village, when they bring their copra, there is so much deduction. And I don't know, there's nobody there to regulate and to measure those things. So what they do is they deduct the weight of the bags and they deduct the moist, which if they measure until up to 10%, they deduct almost 15 to 20 kilo, which is unfair, I believe. And also they might tell the people that, since the price of the world market has dropped, now the price has dropped this far. So where is our measure? Who is there to help the little farmers, So
empowering farmers at the district level is the way forward. This will provide more employment opportunities and help generate internal revenue. Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News.
The Will people should be respected, says Chairman of the Special Mining Lease Osikayang Landowners Association of Panguna Mine, Philip Miriori. Mr. Miriori has been very vocal, working with local landowners who are opposing the return of BCL into Panguna. He says any matters relating to mining must go through the autonomous Bougainville government and not the national government.
Mr. Miriori has been working closely with Panguna Mine landowners and impacted areas, making the stand clear that BCL is not welcomed. The leadership dispute over chairmanship of the Special Mining Lease Osikayang Landowners Association between himself and Lawrence Daviona, he says, is wasting everyone's time. They must unite and develop an agreed strategy to move forward and engage with the autonomous Bougainville government on the exploration license issue. This would spell out landowners' equal opportunities on benefit sharing. He said they have invested great time and effort in the mediation process to openly discuss issues on the chairmanship appointment. Since this has not worked out, Miri believes the last option is to seek the court's clarification. Meanwhile, a reconciliation committee is committed to work with Daviona and Miriori in a considered effort to resolve this issue over the chairmanship role. Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News.
Betel nut chewers in Port Moresby will dig deep into their pockets as the price for the known green gold nut has doubled because of limited supply. Buyers who travel into Central, Gulf or Morobe provinces say it's costly.
Philip Bayu is a betel nut buyer and comes from Simbu province. He earns his living through the sale of betel nut. Each week, depending on the demand, Philip and other buyers travel the Hiritano Highway to buy betel nut.
Kikori, sometimes we go Kikori, sometimes we go Kerema, or some little boost plus up. Some 50, 100 gina dingin na mumda saksi. Kanu so upau murua, kambegan lo Yesipi, Santa Maria Puti. Or sometimes we go to Prostolo, Bulolo, Nukewa, Tegatu, this lap Sibuano.
They travel in groups and each carry close to 6,000 kina each to trade for betel nut with villages along the Hiritano Highway. It costs Philip an additional 1,000 kina to pay people to harvest, pack and transport the betel nut bags back into Port Moresby. In Port Moresby, Philip's wife Maria sells this betel nut at a wholesale price. The money she earns is used to pay for her children's school fee and other necessities.
3-4 boys also helping me. The sorting so got a bag when actually the place come. So lining finish me give commission. Depend on mass money or working law market.
But the Bayu couple are at the wholesale level. There are resellers who buy betel nut and sell at retail prices. Kanage Paulus is a retailer and faces a different level of challenge in getting his supplies.
Now the market will sell him 7, now 5, 6 long.
10 kina, big bla boy, or liglige mol salem long 6 long 5 kina. Now me salem boy osem up boy me katim now me salem long 1 kina.
And the people who are affected the most are the consumers who end up paying double the normal price.
Awesome price go under by normally me just spend him 2 kilo low. 1 blow mouse and by me get me spend him 2 kilos so estimately low approximately low 1 day me can spend him 30 to 40 kina.
Now man okay boy mo kita man. Ogara bostol of cat. Ono na bi go mo son. Full boy salam bad. Most ogara pe mo son. Half boy mo salam.
Meanwhile, there are restrictions on the sale of betel nut in Port Moresby, and the National Capital District Commission has selected specific areas for betel nut trade. Maima David is responsible for betel nut trade at Saraga, where close to 300 betel nut bags are sold in a day. David explains that there are procedures in place to assist all parties involved in betel nut trade.
All bags are coming, all 3 blow, 4 blow load, all car number, all diner, na special bus, na even all 10 seaters. Also come on them all big boy na all even daga. Karamap to him also kisim na come na. Daily blast stana looking since last month. Day 1 blow market the opinion blow looking Ogara boy bag or even daga come inside them before dark are finished.
Betel nut trade makes up a larger proportion of the informal sector in Papua New Guinea, and authorities are working within their capacities to ensure proper incentives are in place for betel nut trade.
Same now Mibla start first now taking 3 weeks now, we'll start looking. But Mibla looking also all windows now, all lossless, all gonna come. No go on when we have program lo ablo Mibla.
Thakla Gunga, National EMTV News.
The International Air Transport Association, or IATA, has recognized Air Niugini's compliance and response to international safety standards. The Ground Operations Manual Certificate is for maintaining consistency and efficiency on industry best practices to IATA standards. IATA's Regional Vice President for Asia Pacific, Conrad Clifford, says Air Niugini has demonstrated greater commitment. Acting Chief Executive Officer Marco McConnell says Air Niugini will continue to reduce operational risk and thanked staff for their commitments. And now a look at our finance news. The kina closed unchanged at $0.3115 US in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.304 US, $0.3978 Australian dollars, $0.2527 euro, and 33.67 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold is trading higher, coffee and cocoa closed higher, copra closed the day lower. Crude oil is trading higher, palm oil closed higher, while copper closed the day lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 103 points higher, the ASX closed at 41 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed at 38 points lower. EMTV News continues after these short messages. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. 174 young men and women from LaSalle Technical College have graduated. Special guest on the day was First Assistant Secretary for TVET, Rosa Pellis, and Country Manager Brad Shaw for Australia and Pacific Technical College, who was the keynote speaker. Students were awarded Certificates 1 and 2 for trade course awards that are globally recognized.
This was the 11th graduation of LaSalle Technical College, which teaches life skills programs applying hands-on experiences in getting students ready for the workforce in the real world. A ceremony to farewell 147 students saw teachers, parents, students and invited guests who all contributed in one way or another in getting these young men and women achieve their dreams. The ceremony first heard from the college head boy and head girl.
Let us walk up the stage today with pride and have to receive NC certificate, which is what we have been working for so hard for the past 3 years. The world out there is like a lion with its mouth wide open to swallow us.
To our current and future students who will be attending LaSalle Technical College, I want to say that this college is a special place in our hearts to serve the lost and the least, and it is a great privilege to come to learn and develop our skills before.
Just before the keynote speech, a dance was presented by girls from India. Dr. Brad Shaw, Country Manager, Australia and Pacific Technical College, was at hand to give his keynote speech. Dr. Brad emphasized to the students that learning to never give up will help them grow as an individual.
All my learning I've applied to every job that I've done. And if that's the key message that you can take away today as graduates, that when you leave here, your learning doesn't stop. Go into the workplace. Learn as much as you can. Never give up. You can be anything you want. You can be absolutely anything you want.
He advised advancing students that graduating now is one step, but moving up in one's career pathway comes with hard work and commitment, and individual decisions and choices you make will determine your future. Also representing the Education Department was First Assistant Secretary Rosa Apellis, who highlighted the government's 2016 to 2018 TVET plan in the country.
This country needs skills ranging from soft skills to technical skills to hardcore skills in many forms of vocation to earn a living.
The main event, which was staging of certificates, started off with the special presentation, the academic awards on personal development, religious education, mathematics and English. The line of presentation was the Trade Course Awards for automotive servicing, carpentry construction, commercial cookery, electrotechnology, metal fabrication and welding, office administration and tourism operations. Students received both National Certificates 1 and 2. The program ended with students singing the national graduation song. Godwin Eki, National, EMTV News.
NCSL's new lending product, the Fair Price Credit Scheme with NATO Investments, was developed to assist members purchase household goods at affordable prices and with low fortnightly repayments. NCSL member Sylvie Rupa Ikufu recently purchased household goods under this scheme and will be repaying with 1% monthly interest rate. General Manager Vari Lahui says NCSL is happy to offer this new product. Southern Highlands Governor William Powie has condemned actions of community leaders in Mendi for holding the province at ransom over election-related disputes. In a media conference this afternoon, Powie says while the rest of PNG is moving on after elections, Southern Highlands is still stuck because of actions of individuals he said were political rivals. He also responded to recent protests by Mendi youths and petition presented to Acting Provincial Administrator Thomas Ella.
Governor William Powie was responding to recent events in Mendi town. He says the shutting down of businesses and even schools and health centers is uncalled for.
Some of my community leaders in the heart of Mendi are beginning to continue to destabilize the peace, destabilize services, destabilize the community, destabilize order, and causing havoc, which is a criminal matter.
He says the actions of the Mendi community leaders does not represent the entire province and says these are all election related.
They cannot claim to represent the 510,000 people and hold the Southern Highlands provincial government, hold the new PPC, the new provincial administrator, the government institutions, the Agiru Center, and the whole entire province at ransom. That's the message. They cannot continue to hold the people of Southern Highlands, the provincial government, the police, the new provincial administrator and the public service at ransom.
On the Monday protest and petition for having the provincial accounts audited, the governor says
that petition has no basis. Because is it coming from the Southern Highlands people or my political opponents? I have no issues with that. But what I'm saying is, it's not coming from the people of Southern Highlands.
In the meantime, he says the Provincial Executive Council will meet after Parliament closes.
Let me make it clear, the Southern Highlands provincial government is taking this matter in court. The Southern Highlands provincial government has instructed our lawyers to take this matter in court, that community leaders and few or minority people in Mendi Town do not own Mendi Town. Mendi Town is the capital of the 510,000 people of Southern Highlands. The fact that you come from Mendi Town, that does not give you right to own the town and cause destruction.
Stanley Oved Jr., National EMTV News.
ECP Governor Alan Bird has raised concerns on issues surrounding women. The governor says in the last few days there has been an increase in rape cases and deaths of women around the country. The governor asked if there are measures the government is taking to address these issues, as he reminded Parliament there are no women MPs on the floor.
They are being killed, they are being burnt. However you want to describe it, Mr. Speaker, me and Ross in this will have talk, but it does not change the situation. Me not look in newspaper now, but I'm sure if you look there, you'll find something is going on with some poor woman somewhere in this country. Me like him also. Can this Parliament give some prominence to the issues that are facing our women, where me plak treat him also? Now, could the Prime Minister finally put together a bipartisan committee from both sides of the House so that you can show him female population of this country or this Parliament, even though there are no women here, that we are fairly representing and we are equally concerned about how our women are being treated across the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
But in terms of the long-term solution to some of these issues and challenges we have, Mr. Speaker, our government, as you will note in the budget, for the first time, has allocated some decent funding so that we can carry out awareness right across the country on a daily basis, whether it will be on radio or newspaper or television or at the community level. Close to about 40 million kina has been allocated for public awareness that this kind of behavior is wrong. We must continue to educate our people and change their mindset about their beliefs, particularly in sorcery and so forth. Mr. Speaker, we continue to profess ourselves as a Christian country. A Christian country means behaving like a Christian, not believing and saying something and doing something else. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it requires support from all sectors of the society, particularly at leaders in our communities and even ourselves at our district level.
Airline operator PNGA is supporting the national government's focus on agriculture. Board of Directors Chairman Murray Wu told EMTV News they are upgrading their air freight services to cater for the demand.
This afternoon, the Board of Directors, led by the chairman, visited the engineering hangar. In the hangar, a Dash 8 aircraft modified for freighter configuration. In its 2 years of operation, PNG Air has recorded increased cargo movements up to 4 tons.
Air cargo, freight carrier. We have noted the increase in requirement for air freight, and now with the focus by the government on agriculture for fruit, vegetables, and with the assistance in the Forex, we are proud and happy to have converted one of our Dash 8s to a full freight carrier to assist the nation in helping to bring down cost and help freight the goods around the country.
PNG has acquired 7 U-80R aircrafts so far with the latest Alpha Tango Foxtrot. It comes in time with the festivities. Fabian Hakelitz, Dash EMTV News.
Chukai Sports is next. Don't go away.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. The stage is set for this weekend's Rugby League World Cup Grand Final clash between England and Australia. Both team coaches have named unchanged lineups for Saturday's match.
We're looking to those guys to get our shape.
England coach Wayne Bennett has named second-choice hooker James Robbie in the starting lineup after Josh Hodgson was ruled out with a torn ACL. This is England's only change to the starting lineup. Newcastle-bound forward Chris Hyington has been named on the bench. The English team went down to Australia 18 points to 4 in the opening match of the Rugby League World Cup. They have picked out mistakes from the match and are looking forward to an interesting encounter against Australia. The Australians have picked the same 17 which defeated Fiji in the semi-final and Samoa in the quarter-final, with their only changes being their number 20 and 21 selected players, with Cameron Munster and Ben Hunt named instead of Josh Mansour and James Maloney.
Vunivalu, what was he doing? He slipped over and then it was 6-on-1 and they were...
Australia has been outstanding throughout the whole tournament, topping their pool and cruising through the quarter and semi-finals.
Misses it, and Valentine Holmes, who got 5 last week in Darwin, starts with a try tonight.
England knows what they're going up against and are preparing well for the match.
Early running ball to Willem. McGilvery's in off the scrum. Well, that was easy for England, too easy.
The men's grand final match kicks off at 7 p.m. at Brisbane Stadium after the women's grand final clash between Australia and New Zealand. Elijah Levette, National EMTV Sports.
Trukai Sports continues after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. A famous Spanish sculpture has scored with a bust of football star Cristiano Ronaldo that actually looks like him. Unlike another statue that tried to capture his likeness but clearly failed, as you can see for yourself. The one with the ugly crooked eyes in green is still at the Cristiano Ronaldo International Airport in Portugal. The new one with perfect hair is at the San Diego Stadium in Madrid. And that's a wrap for Trukai Sports, where the details up next.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
Your weather forecast for tonight in the southern region only. A shower or two tonight, then fine in Port Moresby. Fine weather in Daru, Alutau and Popondetta, and a few showers in Kerema.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
And before we go, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill says the 2018 budget is a balanced budget and one which aims to broaden the country's economic base further to lessen its dependency on natural resources. Instead, he says PNG has all it takes to ensure that other core service sectors will remain priority. He was speaking in an exclusive interview with MTV's Point of View program. The full interview will be featured tomorrow at 12 noon with a repeat at 8 p.m. in the evening.
As the budget yesterday was presented, I think it's a very balanced budget. All the sectors have been covered quite fairly. And of course, there are a lot of areas that we can do more, but shortfalls in the revenue, and we can only work with the amount of money we have. We can't work with more than that. So we have to prioritize which ones need to be the priority of any government, and our government's priorities are health and education. And that's where we're heading for 2018. And I think people will see this budget is trying to broaden the base of our economy, because our economy has been allowed to be overly dependent on natural resources, oil and gas and copper and gold. As a result of that, we are subject to the swings of the commodity prices. When the commodity prices go up, we all do well. And when the commodity prices go down, we struggle to make money. And that's what we've been struggling over the last few years. That's why government is now determined to broaden the base of the economy so that we can reduce our dependency on the natural resources.
And that's the news for Thursday, 30th of November 2017. From the news team, pleasant viewing. Good night.